Hey, hi everyone.
How's it going? Welcome, welcome.
Welcome to the Tech Editor Hub. We are live here today on Friday with Melissa Mitzbauer, who is a knitting and crochet tech editor.
Yes, I do both. And I've always knit and crocheted for most of my life. It's just I started out as a knitting tech editor because I didn't think that I was allowed to do both. So I kept seeing posts for crochet tech editors, and I said, well, why not? I can do this. I can read a pattern. I can crochet. Why not? I already know how to edit knitting patterns. So here I am doing both. And just recently, we launched the Learn to Tech Edit Crochet course.
Right.
And that is the full experience of being a tech editor, from receiving your pattern to invoicing and going through everything line by line. We go over all of it. But we're here today to talk about the live workshop for those of you who started out like me and are already knitting tech editors, but you also know how to crochet and you can follow a crochet pattern and you want to expand your services to add editing crochet patterns for others. You want
Right.
to double your clients, double your client base,
I love it.
basically. So we asked for all of the questions that you had, and we got a bunch. We got a bunch. They're very they're very good questions, and a lot of them were very similar. So if you're watching this and you submitted a question to me, I will be replying individually for everybody who put an email address in the contact form. But we may group some of these questions because we got like 4 or 5 of the same type of questions. So we'll just group them and post one and just answer all of them. So look in your email for a reply to your specific question from me. But if you do have a question and you didn't submit it or you'd like to
Right.
ask again, there's a comment section.
Comments.
Yes,
Tell us
is it down
in.
below? I'm
Well,
not sure where it is from
Facebook
my
is
end of
down
things.
below, and on YouTube it's to the side. I don't know which
Okay,
side. One of those sides. There's a live chat. Feel
it's on a
free.
side somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
pop your question there and we'd be happy to answer it.
pop your question in there, and also maybe let us know, are you a knitting tech editor? And do you
Hmm.
know how to crochet? And are you interested in adding a second craft to your editing
Hmm.
business?
Yeah.
Exciting. So the first question I'm going to show was this one. How experienced do I need to be with crochet to take this course? Now, this is the workshop, so it's not an actual full course,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's not a full course. However, to add or to start out as a crochet tech editor and not have a knitting background at all, you definitely want to have, I would say, an intermediate level crochet knowledge base.
Mhm.
Like, you don't want to pick up a hook and then start editing patterns the next day. That's not going to work out very well. You'll spend a lot of time googling and researching how to make individual stitches or things. So you want to have a little bit of an intermediate level foundation under your belt, and that would mean
You
trying
have
to
to
think of a
know
good
how to
project.
read a pattern.
Yes, that's also important. You definitely know how to read a pattern. You're going to want to be able to do increases and decreases. You're going to want to be able to do different types of stitches and be familiar with the basic stitches at least, and be able to research any type of stitch that you've not seen before and be able to understand that. So I'm thinking, like, I make dog sweaters. That's one of my favorite things to crochet because my little dog, she has to go to the groomers and we she gets scalped, the groomer calls it, but she gets cut pretty short. In the wintertime, she gets really cold. So
Mm.
little crocheted sweaters are perfect for her. And they involve increasing, decreasing, like 3 types of stitches. Um, Counting your stitches, turning at the ends of rows or rounds, those type of things.
Mhm.
So you don't need to be able to crochet a wedding gown.
Right.
Yeah, you don't need to crochet like the fine thread bedspreads. I had a friend who used to do that. She would make these king size bedspreads with this fine thread, and they were gorgeous, but that's not the level that you need. If you have that level,
Right.
if you don't have that level, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. But you will be editing patterns. So you have to understand the terminology, the
Yep.
abbreviations, maybe the shorthand. Like you got to be able to
Hmm.
understand the two different ways that patterns are written.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Unlike knitting, like knitting, you can't really just freestyle with knitting very well. It doesn't usually work as easily as crochet. Like crochet, you can pick up a hook and just start adding modular sections, and you don't have to use a pattern for that. Like I know a lot of people that'll just pick up a hook and some yarn and make something beautiful, and they never have a pattern to follow. They just know what they want it to look like. So, but in order to edit patterns, you need to know how to follow a pattern.
right.
So that's one of the prerequisites for being any
So,
type of crochet tech editor.
or yeah, any kind of pattern, yarn pattern editor, period. You got to be able to
Yeah.
understand, have
Yeah.
fluency in pattern language and pattern
Yep. Yep.
things. So maybe
Exactly.
along the same line, do I need to be able to read and create crochet charts in order to be a crochet tech editor?
Um, being able to read crochet charts is going to be excellent for your career path in the crochet tech editing world, because you will get patterns that have charts and you'll want to check them. Do you need to know how to create them? Not really. If that's not something you're interested in doing, then have somebody else that you recommend. I do that with schematics. I can do simple, basic schematics. But if you want something that is stunningly gorgeous, I have a friend that does that, and she'll do a much better job, and you'll be a lot happier with her work. So, in all honesty, though, I think I've made one crochet chart in all this time that I've been tech editing for crochet patterns. Knitting charts, I'll do a whole lot more of those, but crochet, I think it's only been one. So you don't have to make them, but you really should be able to read them.
Yeah, that would make sense. So you can
Yeah.
have that as a service if you know already how to create a crochet
Hmm.
chart. But in order to edit the patterns, if there's a chart in there, you need to know how to read it and find out
Yeah.
if there's a mistake in it.
Yeah. And it's not much different than reading a knitting chart, where you just go back and forth line by line, looking at what your symbols are and then comparing that to what's written. It really isn't. The only difference is that usually there's not a grid for crochet, because they kind of shape the chart as it should look in the on the finished piece. But if you think of it almost like the board game where you go back and forth and just follow the path, and make sure the path lines up to your written instructions, then you're fine.
That's
Yeah.
good. So if you're just joining us now, I'm here with Melissa Metzbauer, who is both a knitting and crochet tech editor. And
Hmm.
we're talking today about if you are a knitting tech editor and you're established and working already and you want to add crochet to your services, what
Hmm.
you need to know in order to do that and the questions that we've gotten from that. So along the same lines, how similar is the process of editing crochet patterns to editing knitting patterns? This is a great question.
It is a good question. About 95% of it is the same exact thing. You're still going to be checking your yarn. You're still going to be checking that they have a gauge. You're still going to be checking the wording and consistency. There's a copyright. But there are specific things that pertain to crochet patterns that do not pertain to knitting patterns. For example, in a crochet pattern, you have to decide what to do with your first stitch. If you have a first stitch, there are some patterns that don't have a first stitch. But if you do have a first stitch, is that included in your stitch count or not? That
Mm,
sort of thing. And those are the little things that tend to get forgotten, because as knitters, we don't necessarily look for those. I mean, you have your stitches on your needles and there you go, you're set. Every one of them is a stitch, but it doesn't always translate the same in the crochet world. So that's like the 5%. There's like 5% difference in little tiny things like that we have to watch for.
So this this is not a course. This is going to be a one-time
Yes.
workshop next week.
Yes.
And we'll have more information on how you can sign up for this if you are a knitting technical editor and you want to add crochet.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about who this workshop is for. Is it only for current knitting tech editors, or can new crochet tech editors attend this workshop?
Okay, so if you've done the Learn to Tech Edit Crochet course, I believe it's a 7 or 8 week course already, you don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
This is only going to cover that 5% that differs from knitting patterns. Like, I will not be going over everything top to bottom, line by line, how to get clients, how to invoice, how to check yarn, how to check the math, the consistency, because you already know that as a knitting tech editor, or you already know that as a crochet tech editor. If you're a if you've taken a crochet tech editing course, or you're already a crochet tech editor, you don't need this course.
Right.
This is specifically for knitting tech editors that want to add the crochet, and they need to know that 5% that's
What's
different,
different?
that they need to watch for. Yes.
Right.
Because everything else they already know. It's already the same.
Right. So this is going to give you that insight that you need to go ahead and just add it. So you don't have to take a whole course. You can just take this workshop.
Nope. Yep.
And it will give you what you need to know to bridge that gap so that you can start taking on crochet clients.
Yeah, we decided to make it as streamlined as possible.
Right.
So, yeah, so it'll only be an hour or two.
Yeah, it's going to be short. Yeah. And here's the thing is it doesn't matter if you've taken the Tech Editor Hub, knitting, tech editor, learn how to tech edit course, or if you've taken another course from another website or from another provider. It doesn't matter. As long as you are working as a tech editor in the knitting realm, this workshop will be for you if you want to. Yep. So
yeah, but just to reiterate though, knitting tech editors that know how to crochet at about an intermediate level and can read a crochet pattern.
Right.
Yeah. This course is for you.
So you do have to know how to crochet. I know
That's helpful.
I know how to crochet, but this class is not for me because I don't know how to read a pattern. I'm not good at pattern.
Think about it from the flip side. Would you want to hand your knitting pattern to a crochet tech editor that doesn't know how to knit?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Doesn't know how to follow a knitting pattern? Yikes. No.
So one of the questions you got was, would your workshop have assignments and homework?
No, not at this time, because I believe that you are already working as a knitting tech editor. You should be able to take all of the knowledge, this 5% difference in crochet versus knitting patterns, and just apply it immediately.
Excellent. So everything that you're going to be teaching in this workshop next week will be immediately applicable. Is that what you're saying? Excellent. And
yes.
So if you guys have any questions, if you are here with us live and you have any questions about this difference between knit and crochet and editing for knitting patterns and crochet patterns, throw them into the comments now.
Yes, please do.
The last question that, and there's probably more we can draw off of the list that you got.
Sure.
How does fabric flexibility change with crochet?
That depends on how you combine the hook with the yarn with the stitch pattern, because I've seen some beautiful crochet pieces that drape and they're gorgeous. They flow like water down a waterfall, and then I've seen cast iron crochet. So your designer will have already handled that on their end. I have designers that do Tunisian crochet, and I think they go down 2 needle sizes instead of going up. Because in Tunisian crochet, typically you go up a couple needle sizes to accommodate the stiffness of the fabric.
It's really stiff.
But because she does slippers, she goes down a couple needle sizes because she needs that fabric
to be like a rug
and hard wearing. Yes, exactly. And then I've got other designers that they'll design wedding gowns, and their fabric, there's no stiffness to their fabric, you
Hmm.
know. But we don't discuss the designer side of things in the course, or we won't be doing that in the workshop either. That's more of a designer's decision. Your job would be just to eyeball the gauge and the yarn and the hook and make sure it makes sense, kind of like you would do if you had a super bulky weight yarn and a size 1 needle, and you needed to make 16 stitches per inch out of that bulky weight yarn with a size 1 needle. Something's off there, you know. That's the only thing we're going to be checking for. We're not, you know, we're not working on from the designer's point of view.
Yeah, so this is not a design workshop, is what
No,
you're saying.
no,
Yeah.
no. That
Yeah.
is not my field of expertise.
You're a knitwear designer, not a
True, true, true. But I would not, I don't even know if I would say it's my expertise, the design field. There's a lot of designers that do a much better job of designing knitwear than I do. I do it just for fun.
So if you're just joining us, I'm here with Melissa Metzbauer, and we are talking about a workshop that's coming next week.
Mm-hmm.
A one day, or like it's an hour, right? 2 hour workshop about,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and this will be the first time it's offered. So we're not quite
Mm-hmm.
sure how long it's going to be, to help knitting technical editors become crochet technical editors and add that second craft to their editing business.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a knitting technical editor and this totally is like, oh, I want to do this, sign up at the wait list at the link below. We will be opening seats next week.
Yep.
And the workshop will be on, is that
Friday.
Friday?
I'm East Coast United States, so it'll be 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
It'll be next Friday, a week
And
from today.
And the plan is I got a list of topics that we're going to cover. That 5% that's different from knitting patterns to crochet patterns. And we're just going to zip through them all. And if we have questions, I would be happy to answer those during the workshop. But we're going to keep this as smooth and easy and quick as possible, because I know you all have a lot going on. Did I get dropped?
No,
What?
no, you got jobs, is what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have editing jobs to go do if
Yes.
you're working as an editor.
You have clients to take care of already. We don't need to drag this out. So it's going to be smooth, easy, quick. You're going to get just what you need in order to add this side or
So
second.
this will be a shortcut for you. So
Yeah.
sign up at the wait list, because that also gives you the email notifications about and everything about this workshop, so that you can sign up and join us next Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else?
I don't know. Did we hit all of the questions that we wanted to cover?
Questions. Let's see.
I'm looking through my list of questions.
I think the only one we didn't talk about was, would you consider a Tunisian crochet tech editing course?
Oh, okay. So you don't need a Tunisian crochet tech editing course.
Okay.
If you are familiar with Tunisian crochet, then the topics that we cover in the workshop will be very familiar to you. If you have no idea what Tunisian crochet is, don't edit it yet. Go find a Tunisian crochet hook and get yourself some yarn that's appropriately weighted, and go make yourself some washcloths or something else that's simple like that, and play with it and have fun. Because I think as a knitter, Tunisian crochet is like the perfect middle ground. All of the stitches are there on your cable, and they don't go anywhere. You don't have to count as much, and it's just really fun.
And I think this is great advice for any kind of technique you want to add to any part of your editing business.
Oh yeah.
Go get the tools, go get a pattern, learn it.
Go play with it for a while.
Yeah, go play with it, definitely. So that's great advice too. Well, thank you for being here today, Melissa. This is a lot of fun. Oh, I see your puppy behind.
Maisie's behind me. It's a warm day, so she doesn't have her little.
She doesn't have her crochet coat on.
Yeah, her life goal is to lay on the couch and sleep all day. So, but yes, I'm so glad I could be here and we could answer all these great questions. If you continue to have questions, please email them to Sarah.
At
I believe
info
it's info at the Tech
info
Editor
at
Hub.
thetecheditorhub.com.
Yes.
I'll put it down into the comments below. If you guys have any questions, please ask. We'll directly email you and answer you
Yep.
back. We make sure that you get a direct answer. So
absolutely.
So we'll see you next Friday, Melissa.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
And keep your eyes open in your inbox if you are interested in this workshop. More information will be coming next week.
Yeah, that's the absolute best way to keep in touch with all of the updates and things. But yeah.
And sign up for the waitlist below, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, you have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.